So after EVO, Arc System Works announced Guilty Gear Strive Season 4, with 4 brand new characters, major system mechanic changes, and balance changes on the way. But along with that, there is actually a small, let's say a summer balance patch as well, where there are some small system mechanic changes and some buffs to characters that they considered to be either underplayed or maybe not playing to their full potential. That was about a month ago, so I wanted to go back and look at the character changes and the most important system changes to see how they've actually affected the game. And as far as characters, there's pretty much just 2 groups in my opinion. I believe Johnny and Bedman are a lot different because of their buffs, and it's pretty easy to see even when you're playing against them. Where Axel, Potemkin, Testament, and Elfeld, if you play as these characters, you will definitely feel the impact of the changes, but if you're playing against them, you might not actually feel the changes too much depending on what character you're playing into them. So first there's Elfeld. As far as playing against her, one of the biggest things you'll actually feel is her improved 2P on defense. It is 4 frames now instead of 5, so there are things that it could punish now that it could not punish before. If you had a character that had a move that was -4, that was a big part of your pressure structure, you had to change how you do offense to Elfeld. A lot of Elfeld's other things are more quality of life to me. So for example, her far slash having sliding momentum on her run, or how much more backwards she travels when she fires the gun, or the grenade popping up on hit leading to bigger cash outs when left-right hits. In Elfeld's case, it basically seemed to me that they thought she was already pretty okay and they just kind of tweaked her so that she's able to do what she wants to do more. And I feel somewhat similarly about Testament, except in Testament's case, if you play a character that runs at Testament, you probably don't think Testament feels very different to play against. But if you play a character that could outzone Testament, then you probably really feel the effect of Testament's changes. But more than Testament changes, how about Testament merch? Hey you, are you tired of Bridget merch? Because if so, you don't want to skip this ad, because this video is brought to you by Totokami Apparel. This company started off with gamer-based apparel based on roles like tanks or DPSs and MMOs, but now they're about to drop some Guilty Gear merch. So peep this Testament cardigan. You can tell they put a lot of detail into the design, and there's subtle nods to the character in the sleeves and on the back. Pre-orders come with a Faust bag if you want. I will not judge you for that. And once again, shoutouts to Totokami Apparel for sponsoring this video. So there are some characters that their goal is they have to run at Testament and deal with all sorts of zoning between the S Fireball, H Fireball, Crows, and just Testament generally being a slippery character who can set up in neutral, but can also play guessing games around where are they going to go on the screen. So everyone will feel the impact of things like improved combo ability, between 2S pushback being reduced and 2H being faster, and things like throw setups becoming a little bit more auto-timed. So the big thing here just comes from Arbiter actually tracking to full screen. Just the fact that you actually have to worry about it at full screen, because previously the max range of Arbiter sign was around like here. And there are plenty of characters in this game that can attack from full screen with zoning faster than Testament. So there were a lot of people who were like, oh, Testament's just not fast enough, not quick enough at doing what they want to do. Being able to deny zoning from full screen sounds odd for a character like Testament because they are a zoner, and so the fact that they couldn't do that was kind of weird. So being able to do that now, I think, is a great improvement. So Potemkin got a few changes, but the biggest ones I felt were to Hammerfall and 5H. So now both Hammerfall and 5H apply hard knockdowns, but in 5H's case, it has to hit you airborne, where Hammerfall is pretty much whenever. So this is kind of like Testament in that it depends on the matchup which one you see more, but you'll definitely see one of the two. I think these are pretty important because the more knockdown opportunities Potemkin has, the more opportunity he has to win the game. Win condition was always knock you down and do guard at impact, but there wasn't really a lot of ways to get it without meter previously, and you'll notice that most of his changes is just to help him not get knockdowns more or help him get access to the situation more. Even the addition of White Wild Assault helped with him getting access to this situation. The other big change, I think, is to Heavenly Potemkin Buster. It is bigger, so there's more spots that you could use it as a reversal to counter stuff. I don't think that is as big of a deal as the minimum damage increasing from 20% to 50%. And this character already had pretty high damage. So next is Axel, and Axel is kind of a weird one because they usually improve his combo ability. In Season 1, he really was bad at combos, so the initial improvement to his combo routes was definitely needed. But at least from my perspective, he kind of falls in line with like Anji of like, why are you still making his combos better when he already has good combos? So I am aware that the 5H launch helps him with Red Wild Assault combos to the point that he can get a charge Red Wild Assault off 5H. But again, overall, I don't think most people thought that his problem was his combos are not good. I do think the changes to Snail are pretty impactful, especially Air Snail. So Ground Snail is only buffed on counter hit. He gets a hard knockdown. This I think is pretty reasonable too because he's taken a huge risk doing this. But he also gets it off Air Snail. So if you frame trap with it, you get a knockdown. But also in a situation where you hit confirm it, you also get a hard knockdown, which is pretty good for him. Then the most obvious buff to me is the buff to the Tornado being faster. This move occupies a ton of space and travels really quickly, and he's a screen control character. So being able to use this and being able to travel behind it and see what the opponent does is really, really good. On top of giving him a safe cancel option, which he did need. But then the last two characters that got buffs, I think they're obviously quite different because of the changes they got. So first is Johnny. So Johnny got a bunch of changes, but there's one specific change that really changes up the way he plays, and it is the change to his dash. His dash went from 18 frame total duration to 15 frame total duration. And honestly, I did not expect that to be the biggest change that he got. I know a lot of people were looking at Mistfinder being a medium counter hit now as the biggest change, but especially from playing him a lot because he's far, far, far more popular than he was last patch, his dash is broken. Like, I don't know what else to say. So for starters, it's just the raw speed of it. He just really quickly traverses the screen. So it was kind of easy to box him and control space, especially because he does not have the ability to dash block. But now his dash is so fast that if you look at him dash across the screen here, 1, 2, 3, you don't really know that the first dash happened until partway through the second dash. It's just very, very, very quick. So if you have to play a standard ground versus ground game against him, it's pretty hard now because not only is his dash fast, but also he has a great backdash. He has an 18 frame backdash with 5 frames of invincibility. So it actually is very difficult to play normals versus normals against Johnny at the moment. On top of that, it's also affected his offense. So one really important point of old Johnny counterplay was that there was a 1 frame gap here. So on the dash into close slash. But now this is airtight. I cannot move. So this makes his pressure sequences and mix-ups much more threatening and airtight. And getting knocked down by him is a way bigger deal now because now you're just more guaranteed to take offense. But Johnny is not the only character that anyone could tell that the character got changed in a major fashion. The other character is Bedman, and it's 3 things with Bedman. So the first one is probably the one that is going the most under the radar. It's just that Bedman is generally good at comboing now. Bedman used to not be that great at confirming like far buttons into 2H, but now it's pretty consistent. So this aspect of their combo ability was improved, but also the more obvious one is the JS Vacuum, being one of the few characters in the game that can retreat and get combo and pressure opportunities. And the last change is to JD, giving this bounce. It also is an overhead. So the good thing about this move is that it has a lot of options on it. They being jump cancelable on landing, being air dash cancelable, and while it itself is fast, and you could do it off whatever Gatlings are available, the big thing about it is that it also functions as a kind of like cross up too, so it's visually confusing to deal with, on top of them giving this to a character that's already kind of uncommon, so people aren't used to how they animate, so it definitely aids Bedman's offense. So in short, the 6 characters they gave improvements to, they all matter, but I just think that Johnny and Bedman, it's just so obvious they made the characters better, where the other 4, they're better, but depending on what character you play against them, you might not feel the changes, because the specific things they gave those characters just might not come up in your matchup. But on top of that, there are system mechanic changes as well. The first one being Wild Assault no longer knocks down. So generally, characters that are not resource characters, I think, feel this the most, as they don't get to save their meter to use during positive bonus here. They have to use meter to break the wall. The thing is though, in the winter patch, they did make it so that you gain more meter in positive. The trade-off being that positive bonus itself is shorter. So the verdict is still in the air on how much this affects characters that were relying on the Wild Assault knockdown to close out rounds. A big thing about this change though is that you don't get round start hits into knockdowns after wall break anymore. In previous versions, you could just do Wild Assault again, and then you'd only be one hit away from getting 50 meters so that you could run offense, and you're getting your burst back very quickly. Where now you still get the advantageous situation, but a return to neutral gives the opponent a chance to fight back. Overall, I think this change is good for the game. It does benefit resource characters more, but there's not a ton of them. I also think it's a light nerf to red Wild Assault characters who one of their big things was breaking the wall from round start. So then we had to change to white Wild Assault. This is invincible poke, and it used to be plus on block, but now it is -3, both versions. So both the normal one and the charge one are -3. Pretty much everyone wanted this, so white Wild Assault characters use this to counter zoning and as counter pokes more than using it to force their way to their game plan. The big thing being that since it was plus and a guard crush, you probably got a mix-up or at least an advantageous situation. The last big change came to DPs and how you can't Roman cancel them anymore. This is a pretty big change. So people had two really big problems with DPs. A couple of them, like Bridget and Leo, they would actually be able to do a 50-50 high-low mix-up if you blocked the reversal. And then for other characters, they just did a lot of damage if it worked. And if it didn't, then you were blocking their offense. So while a lot of people's argument for DPRC staying in the game was that it's something that's legacy, it's something that's in not only previous Guilty Gear games, but in other ArcSys games like BlazBlue, I don't think legacy was the best argument because there are ArcSys games where it doesn't exist or has been greatly weakened. In Dragon Ball FighterZ, for instance, you used to be able to do reversals and call your assist immediately, and that got greatly weakened. And in Persona, you don't really have the ability to roaming cancel your reversals at all. Characters can super cancel them, but there's pretty reliable counterplay against that. But I still found it to be important because there are a lot of characters in this game that have strong looping offense, some that is pretty easy to set up from a far distance. That being said, it was somewhat difficult to balance, mostly because you get a really big reward for breaking the wall. You get positive bonus, you get all this meter back, you get a damage increase, you get a defense increase. Not to mention, some characters are just bad at dealing with DP into RC because they're getting out-resourced, out-damaged, things like that. So now that I've been playing against DPs without having to worry about RC for a month, one, it's kind of just nice to just not have to worry about it or have to make special setups to make them whiff and things like that. I know some people don't go that deep in the woods, but some of the DPs had weaknesses like they didn't travel far enough, so you could make them whiff. Very small, subtle things that you could abuse. But I think a bigger factor too is that it's pretty common for them to give DPs to characters that are kind of all-rounders, like Sol or Kai, or excel in neutral in a specific way, like Leo or Chip. So in the case of a character like Chip, he out-resources almost everybody, so by the time you actually hit him, he probably has meter to do DPRC. So I could see how that would be really annoying to play against. And them taking away the option kind of just lines up with Wild Assault not knocking down anymore, or White Wild Assault not being plus anymore, of just emphasizing resetting to neutral more than having overwhelming offensive opportunities. It is pretty interesting how such a small part of the game, because I think only 7 or 8 characters have a meterless reversal. In like the past year or so, many of these characters were considered top tier at one point. Sin, Chip was considered top tier in 3.0. Sol's been top tier season 3 the whole time. Kai has basically been top tier or close to top tier the entirety of season 3. Leo's been top tier almost the entire game. So I'm pretty interested in seeing how Season 4 changes tie in with this. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. As usual, if you have any questions or comments, definitely feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Like and subscribe if you guys feel like it. I stream basically every day on Twitch, Monday through Friday. And if you're interested in coaching in Guilty Gear or any other game that I'm playing, then you can go over to metafy.gg and hit me up over there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.